So the weekly closes in, and let's just be honest, it was not good. So last night we talked about the levels that we needed to close over. We did not get that, which means, yes, we could see a little bit more bearish price action in the market. This is why we always focus on TA. I know a lot of people don't like TA. They don't think that it matters at all, but let's just be honest here, TA is crucial in this space. If you're looking at the long term and you don't really care about TA and you're just holding and holding and holding, hey, that's fine. You don't need to focus on it. But I do think that it's very important to think about what's going to happen next in the short term. That way we can maximize our not only our profits that are sitting on the sidelines or stable coins, whatever the case may be. We want to prioritize getting in on crucial levels of support. That way we could sell at crucial levels of resistance and take profits. If you don't care about taking profits, if you don't care about buying the lows, then that doesn't really matter. But I do think that we should be focused on the strength on these charts because it can avoid getting caught up in the storm. If we look at the market today, we could see it's a sea of red. A lot of altcoins are down, XRP down 3.8%, HBAR down 6.2%. There's a sell-off across the board. On the weekly, it's also been a pretty bearish week for crypto. There's been a few outliers here that are pumping. There's always going to be, but on the weekly, HBAR is down 14.6%, XRP down 10.1%, Bitcoin hovering around 107.5K, 1.4% down on the daily, on the weekly 5.2. Ethereum about 4,400 almost, negative 1.5% on the daily, negative 8.2% on the weekly, and then we have XRP down 3.8%, 10.1% on the weekly at $2.74. It's a rough week, it's a rough time in the market, but this will pass just like every other bearish time in the market. If we look at the total right now, 3.74 trillion. Zooming out on the yearly, it seems as though we're getting back to retesting some of these crucial lows and highs, going all the way back to even December of last year, and also going back to just the beginning of the month. I don't think that we get this low. I think that we probably bounce around those December highs. That's what we're at least hoping for. We still have to focus on that to see if that does happen. But fear and greed still at about 39. So this is still good to see that this is, still dropping. I think that we have a little bit more pain in the market just to kind of get this down to, like these lows going back to June. The lower that this goes, the more bearish that the market will be, but the more bullish that we become, because again, the more fear that's out there means more opportunities, which means that we will bounce back off of those lows and we will see, some very solid price action going forward. So I'm utilizing this time as an opportunity, not so much as a negative sort of way to look at the market. I don't think that we're topped out. I don't think that we're close to the top either. I think that we still have a, solid at least 4+ months left in the market for pumps. But looking at Bitcoin today on the 7-day span, this is what the price action looks like. Again, we're crashing because the weekly close was not bullish at all. We'll address that. And then also Ethereum on the 7-day span, not too bad. We're still holding some higher lows, which is good to see. Let's see if that is, going to stay consistent. With XRP, we are falling through the floor here, going off of the 7-day. On the monthly, we're also breaking down below those, lows from the beginning of the month. But on the yearly, you can see that we're probably going to retest some of those highs. And I go all the way back here to December, and I also go back here to May. Because if we're looking at Bitcoin, right, just looking at the 1 year, we've already retested and broke through the May highs. XRP has yet to retest its May highs. And I know that this is not a very good thing to look at because, if you're holding XRP, you're hoping that we held support around up here or something and we don't follow Bitcoin. But, this is probably where we, start to see XRP go next. Because again, this is a pretty bearish weekly candle. We lost support going all the way back to the end of July and the beginning of August. So now I'm looking at a few crucial levels of, key demand. So we're looking at the high going all the way back here to December, and then also the highs going back from roughly the middle of the year. So this is that area of demand that I'm looking at for XRP. It's between about $2.45 to $2.62. This is a level of key interest where I do see the highest probability of us headed to next on the weekly. And again, remember, we're in a 3-day weekend. It's going to be prime time for manipulation. Yes, it's going to build out fear. And then on Tuesday, we definitely have to watch for stocks on how they open. Is it going to be bullish or bearish? We don't know, right? We take a look at it. We see how the futures are trading closer to that time, and we kind of make our assumptions then. But for the most part, the market is pretty bearish right now. A lot of people are getting fearful about it. I said it many times over already, during the last couple of days, that just take some time away, right? If you're getting emotional, maybe you're getting scared, maybe you're getting concerned or worried, take some time away, take a break, because again, we'll come back in a couple, weeks, and the market will be back on top. So, when it comes to this market, again, time away is always crucial. But just looking at Bitcoin, this is the weekly candle close. I know that this looks a little bit rough, but just taking a quick look, let me remove everything. The weekly candle close was right around 108.1K. We lost the highs going back to May, which signaled more bearish price action, which is also why I said, we could still see the lows of like 105.7K being ran. It wouldn't, surprise me at all. However, we could go a little bit lower, and I'm going all the way back here to the December highs, just like XRP. So if we're looking at this whole level down here could be tapped for Bitcoin, and it wouldn't really change the idea of Bitcoin hovering in this blue zone and bouncing from this blue zone. So just be prepared for that. If we get it, it could be a significant run to the lows. Again, a lot of panic will ensue. We'll probably see liquidations as well. Everyone will get a little bit more bearish. But I do expect a big reversal from this range low down here. So just be cautious here. Don't get too impulsive on jumping into positions. Don't buy over the weekend. Wait till we see weekly price action, especially for stocks. But this is not going to change the outlook of the market at all. This didn't break the market. The total 3 in terms of the altcoin market, yeah, we still probably continue to sell off down into this trend line of about like $980 billion. This is a total loss on the altcoin market of roughly about like 3.54% from where we currently are trading at, or roughly like 3.7%. Anywhere within that, it's probably going to be below 4%. But if we do wick down below it, just like back here in July, let's just say that we do kind of wick below it, maybe 6%. I mean, that's not too bad of a loss. It will definitely impact the charts. It would also align with XRP selling off into these December highs and even possibly the May highs. And that would be a big level of demand swept for us to continue to the upside. So just get through this correction and you'll survive and you'll be fine. And just like Raoul Pal said, and I know that I don't like to quote him too much, and I know that a lot of people don't like Raoul Pal, but if we look at this, this is exactly where we're at. This is, let's talk about the crypto waiting room. Many key parts of the crypto ecosystem are in the waiting room, ready to launch. Let's look at a few. You will have yours too. So total 3, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, ready to launch from the waiting room. Now, again, here's the total 3. This is what I'm looking at. His chart looks a little bit different than ours. This is what his chart looks like. And let me just open this up in a new tab just so that you guys can see it real quick. So this is what his looks like. He's looking at this thing on the weekly. So am I. But his is a little bit extended. He's zooming out and he's going off of the lows here. Again, if we're going off of the 2023 lows, we've been holding this so far. If we do see a major capitulation, then we would be targeting like almost $700 billion on the total 3. I don't think that we get that big wipeout like that. However, the altcoin market is definitely waiting for a much larger move. We also have others, right? So he has a few other charts down here. So this is the others. This is the altcoins outside of the top 10. The purest form of alt season where all things rise. Still in the waiting room, but longer to launch. And yes, this is what we are looking at here. I mean, this thing has been... this is the number one thing that I want you guys to understand. If you are new to this space and you just jumped in maybe like 12 months ago, guess what? We have been waiting on altcoins to just go crazy since 2022. We've been waiting 3 years. So we are in the consolidation phase of the market, and we have been for about 3 years now. The longer that we consolidate, the higher that we go. And then we also have Ethereum full port. So here we have Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum has been looking pretty good. We are selling off. We're probably still in this chop zone on Ethereum. Solana, same kind of story here where we're just kind of ranging. Sui as well. I mean, Sui has been looking pretty good. We'll probably range here a little bit more. He also has Dogecoin. And then we also have XRP. So with XRP, again, we're still in this like sort of bull flag formation. and it's a little bit extended, but we're probably going to see this break out sometime within September, I would say. I would say September is prime time. And if we're following 2017 and 2018, like most people believe, then, it's a little bit longer to consolidate, maybe another, couple months, maybe like 2 months into like October, maybe even late November. But again, the main thing that we're looking at still is the global M2 supply, which has been expanding rapidly. And then we also have Bitcoin. And we have here, people need to learn patience. The path is clear, but never ever expect tick for tick perfection. It's the pattern that counts. And with Bitcoin still hovering around the 12-week lead on the global M2, it's telling us that Bitcoin is going to continue higher from this point on. The entire market's going to, really continue higher from this point on. And we also have, and the rate of change is only going to rise in the key metric of the total global liquidity. The US, the EU, China, and even Japan all needs to roll debts. This is an absurdly bullish backdrop along with the regulatory changes, debts, and sovereign accumulation along with Wall Street acceptance. And yeah, listen, global M2, like the global M2 supply has been expanding rapidly. We know that the Fed wants to cut rates as well. I mean, this all looks very similar to 2017. Here we have, and it looks similar to 2017. Here we have Bitcoin today, and then Bitcoin in April of 2017 through January of 2018. Here we have the sell-off, just like we saw back in 2017 into September. And then September, we started to bounce in a big way, leading into October, leading into November, and leading into December. And the best part about all of this is think about how crazy the environment is to actually support this chart right here. If we're thinking about the environment for this, think about the CME Group's predictions on rate cuts for the Fed. September is an 87.6% chance. All right, well, let's go back to that image real quick, right? Let's go back to this image. Let me open this up in a new tab. So just to go off of this, you have September of 2017, and we can just throw this on the chart real quick as well if we really want to just kind of draw on it. So I just want to show you guys real quick. So here we have September of 2017, and we have the bottom being printed into the beginning of September of 2017. Then the bounce begins. Okay, the middle of the month is when we get the FOMC meeting. It's September 17th. So maybe we sell off into the beginning of September, just like in 2017. Then we get the Fed rate cut decision, and we start to pump into October. Okay, October 29th is the next Fed rate cut with a 94.2% chance. October is still pretty bullish. We continue higher. We break over the previous highs as well going into October. Now we have November. November, we sell off, but we continue to pump into the end of November into December. December is where Bitcoin essentially tops out back in 2017. Again, December 10th, we get another rate cut, 98.9% chance. This will continue to help the markets rise more and more, even when Bitcoin is topping out. And remember, Bitcoin topped out sometime in December. Most altcoins topped out in January. This all supports that push to the upside. The Fed rate cuts are so bullish for the rest of the market. And by the way, everyone that's saying, oh, I don't know if the Fed should be cutting rates, it doesn't matter what we believe. The market wants that. Everyone wants that. We've been hearing Trump, talking about why we should see rate cuts. We should see rate cuts. And whether or not it's bullish for the rest of the markets, right? Because again, this will probably lead into a 2026 crash. The main thing that we are looking at here is this is going to improve liquidity. This is going to support markets going higher. Now, how high do they go? Well, it's questionable. I still think that we probably top into Q1 of 2026. And if we're looking at this chart over here from Crypto Rover, we have Powell confirmed rate cuts because he essentially did, say that, we're getting rate cuts. He said September will most likely see rate cuts. Altcoins are set to moon just like in 2024. Again, I would argue that we're probably going to see rate cuts support the market more so like 2017 than 2024. And if we go back to 2024, though, just to kind of go off of this, this was a 105% push to the upside. This is the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is the others chart essentially, but also even the total three, right? If we're looking at the total three and we see something rise like going back here, and again, this was a squeeze in the market. We squeezed to the upside in a, bull flag formation essentially, and we could draw this a little bit better. So we kind of went off of the lows of back in 2023. We're kind of holding this like like this. And then we bounced. Again, we squeezed from the upside. We also broke out from the upside. We could draw this multiple ways. We could actually go off of even the lower ones down here. But we squeezed just like we are currently on this side. And once this broke out, it was a big push to the upside of, 100% of a push. If we're going off the lows, going back here to, August, it was a 150% push. If we're going off of the lows, say for so we, do sell off down into like 975 billion, maybe we even retest the lows. If we still have a 150% push, that should take us to around $2.38 trillion. Now, I do have a potential top for altcoins up here at about 2.83 trillion. This would be a 195% push. This would also support a much larger bull run. This would also support altcoin season. It's all questionable on how high we go. The main thing that we should focus on, though, is the fact that we are probably going to get